Hey guys, I think it's time that we expand our test repertoire. So those of you who subscribe to this channel, you know that GRE is my first love. But actually, I started out as a test prep teacher with the TOEFL, believe it or not. And I remember the first class, the boss or whatever you want to call him, he was like, do you know the TOEFL? And I was like, yeah. And that was that was a lie. And then over the next couple of years, I really got to know the test, got familiar with the test. I ended up taking it in 2013 to kind of see if the strategies that I was espousing were actually fruitful, were actually working. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to do a reading walkthrough and just of one passage. So real quick, some background information. A reading passage on the TOEFL has usually 14 questions. And you're given 20 minutes to complete them. Right there. And so the strategy, kind of the overall strategy I'm going to use with this passage is what I like to call the question first. So question first, vocab first strategy. Now this is not the only way to approach it, not by any means, but it's certainly one of the effective ways. And I'll show you different ways in future videos. But before we start, I want to kind of remind you guys that some of the strategies I talk about with the TOEFL are different than what I say with the GRE. And that makes sense when you think about it because they are kind of different tests. You know, they do different things. So with that in mind, how about we begin and do a TOEFL reading passage walkthrough? So the beautiful thing about the question first, vocab first strategy is because TOEFL has a flaw, and the flaw is vocab questions, you can knock out 4 to 5 of these questions in about 30 seconds, which means you'll have like 19 minutes to only do 10 questions. That's nearly 2 minutes per question. So it's a very effective strategy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through this, find every vocab question, answer it, and just move on. And, you know, the TOEFL, they say that you have to have context to answer these vocab questions correctly. That's a lie. That's not true at all. And I'll show you what I mean. All right, so I come down and I find the first vocab question, cope. Well, if you're going to cope with something, you're going to deal with it. Like if it's difficult to cope with the situation, you're having a hard time to adjust to the situation. So the correct answer is adapt. Moving on. Yeah, that's 5 seconds. Fluctuations, of course, means, you know, change, go up and down. So the correct answer is variations. Okay, keep going down. Bombard. Well, think about like a comet bombarding a planet, or if you are watching Chernobyl, you know, the HBO miniseries, think about neutrons from radiation bombarding someone's body and someone's DNA. So the correct answer is strike. And then finally, disruption, the last one. Well, if I disrupt you, I interfere, I bother you. Correct answer is disturbance. So you can see how powerful this strategy is. I answered 4 vocab questions in what, 30 seconds maybe? Which means I have a lot of time to answer the rest of the questions. So coming down, just make sure we don't have any more vocab. Okay. All right, so now what I like to do is I like to answer what I determine to be the easiest questions first. So on the TOEFL, the easy questions are what are known as detail questions, or factual questions. You'll sometimes see them referred to as. So how do you recognize a factual question? Well, usually it's according to paragraph number 1 or paragraph number 2, etc., etc. Now, the beautiful thing here is that this is basically just a vocab question. So the passage is going to say something, the answers are going to say something else, and all you're doing is matching ideas with different vocabulary. So take, for example, maybe the passage says hungry, and the answer says need food, you know, something like that. Or it says starving. So typically what they do is they use different vocabulary to express the same idea, and that's what you need to choose. So let's do the first one together. According to paragraph 1, which of the following is true of the late Cretaceous climate? So notice they're specifically asking me about the late climate, and they're saying something is true, and then it's in paragraph number 1. So let's go up to paragraph number 1 and look for the late Cretaceous climate. All right, I found it right here. So let's go ahead and read like 2 lines up. Data from diverse sources, including geochemical evidence preserved in seafloor sediments, indicate that the late Cretaceous climate was milder than today's. So whenever you compare this climate to today's, it was milder. Let's see if they give me more information. The days were not too hot. The nights were not too cold. The summers were not too warm. The winters not too frigid. So basically, it was not too bad, right? The weather was not too bad. And today, they actually say the weather was worse. All right, so let's go to number 1. All right, let me get my red marker. The climate did not change dramatically from season to season. Okay, this one looks pretty good. Even though they're using different vocabulary, that's kind of what they're saying, right? They said that the winter was not too cold and the summer was not too hot, which means that it was kind of just around the middle. It didn't change too much. The climate was very similar to today's climate. We know that's not true because they compared them and showed a difference. B. Shallow seas on the continents caused frequent temperature changes. Again, we know that there was not a lot of temperature change because the weather was not too bad. Cross it out. And then summers were very warm and winters were very cold. Again, we know that that is not true. So just through process of elimination, the answer must be D right there. And now with the TOEFL, you never want to dawdle, which is a nice little GRE word for us. You never want to stay in one place too long. You want to move on pretty quickly because you only have 20 minutes. And if you save time on the first passage, you can use that saved time for the second or the third passage. All right, let's move on. So number 2, this looks like another factual question, even though they're not using according to. Because again, they're not asking me to infer, they're not asking me author's purpose, anything like that. And it says, which of the following reasons is suggested in paragraph 2 for the extinction of the dinosaurs? So the first thing is you want to find the location, paragraph 2, and I'm looking for the reason why the dinosaurs died. And also pay attention to this word suggested. That means that kind of a possible reason, right? Okay, so let's go to paragraph 2 and see if we can find a possible reason why the dinosaurs died. All right, paragraph 2, where are you? Okay. All right, at the end of the Cretaceous, the geological record shows that these seaways, so nothing about dinosaurs. No one knows why, nothing about dinosaurs. Over a period of about 100,000 years, while the seas pulled back, climates around the world became dramatically more extreme. Again, nothing about dinosaurs. Warmer days, cooler nights, but they do say the weather became more crazy, right? More extreme. Hotter summers, colder winters, perhaps, right there. The reason why this word is important is because remember from the question the word suggest? So I told you that the TOEFL is mostly just a changing vocabulary game. The question used the word suggest, the passage uses the word perhaps, and that's basically the same idea. So what that tells me is the answer is right here. And it says dinosaurs could not tolerate these extreme temperature changes and became extinct. So the weather changed and the dinosaurs had a difficult time, and this is a possible reason why they died, why they went extinct. So come back down to the question. All right, let me get my red marker. An extreme decrease in the average yearly temperature. No, they said the weather became more extreme. They didn't say that it was just a temperature decrease. The change from mild to severe climates. That one looks pretty good. Let's skip that one. Because remember, the weather became more extreme. And notice that this word severe equals extreme. Droughts caused by the droughts? No, we didn't see anything about no rain, right? Changes in the length of the day. Well, that's just off topic, right? Cross that out. So again, it has to be C through process of elimination. Now, to really show you about this changing vocabulary game, remember we have suggested and then they said perhaps. Okay? Extinction, and the passage said became extinct. The correct answer also says late. Let's go back to the paragraph and see if we can find something that says late Cretaceous period. Let's see if they change that vocabulary. Okay, here's paragraph 2. And if you look right at the beginning, at the end of the Cretaceous. So you see, it's just a stupid vocab changing game. That's all it is. So that, of course, is going to match with late right there. All right, moving on. Okay, number 3, this is an author's purpose question. And in an author's purpose question, you just have to ask yourself, why did the author do something? Well, on the TOEFL, these are never that hard. On the GRE, they're sometimes really tricky. But on the TOEFL, anytime an author does something, it's usually in support of some other point. Of some other point. And I'll give you kind of an example. What if I were to say that university is not the best choice for students right now? And I would say, I mean, look at the price. It's like $45,000 a year. And then the question is, why did you mention $45,000? Well, I was trying to support my point that university is not a great choice for students right now. That's the only reason why I did it. So the strategy here is you find what they mention, snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles, and then you look around. So look around this and try to find what idea or what point the author is trying to make. So let's go ahead and try this. So we're going to go to paragraph 3. We're going to look for snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles, and then we're going to look around that and see kind of what point they're trying to make. All right? Okay, so it starts by saying, if true, though, why did cold-blooded animals such as snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles survive the freezing winters and torrid summers? So it looks to me like the author is just trying to attack an idea. See this if true, though, and then why did? It's almost like he's bringing up a counterpoint. So what idea is he trying to attack? Well, if true refers to what comes before, right? And before is this idea about perhaps the dinosaurs could not tolerate these extreme temperature changes. So it says here the dinosaurs could not tolerate, but then the snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles survived the freezing winters. So yeah, the author mentioned snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles to kind of attack this idea here. That's what he's doing. He's supporting the point that this idea is not correct. Let's see if he says that more clearly. So he even says it down here. Although initially appealing, the hypothesis of a simple climatic change related, it's insufficient. Yeah, so he's definitely attacking it. And he's using the example of snakes, lizards, turtles, and crocodiles to support his attack. Okay, so let's come down to the question. All right, here we go. Let me get my red marker. To support a hypothesis? No, he's not supporting anything. To present an examples? Not really. He's using it to attack an idea, remember? To question the adequacy of a hypothesis. Well, that looks pretty good. To argue that dinosaurs may have become extinct because they were not cold-blooded. No, that's not what he's doing. He's attacking an idea. He's not arguing something, a new idea. So the correct answer, again, just through process of elimination, must be B. Because what he's doing is he's questioning that hypothesis about climate change right there. Okay? All right, so number 5, this is another detail question. And the reason I know that is because of this according to. So what I like to do on these questions is I like to rephrase the question to make sure I know what I'm looking for. And it says, which of the following is true of changes in climate? So we're looking for changes in weather before the Cretaceous period and the effect of these changes on dinosaurs. So I need to find something about the changes in weather before the Cretaceous period and what effect it had on the dinosaurs. And where do I go? Go to paragraph number 3. Okay, here's paragraph 3. Now, the beautiful thing about the TOEFL is that most of the time the questions go in order. So notice one question already referred to this area right here. So if you're in a hurry, you can probably just look right kind of in the middle, right there. Critics also point out that the shallow seaways had retreated from and advanced on the continents numerous times during the Mesozoic. So why did the dinosaurs survive the climatic changes associated with the earlier, right there, remember, before, so that's before. So before, we know that we had changes, and we know that the dinosaurs survived. So it looks to me like the effect on the dinosaurs was nothing. The dinosaurs were okay, right? So the weather changed and it had no effect on the dinosaurs. So that's probably the correct answer. Okay, right here. All right, let me get my red marker. Before the Cretaceous period, there were few it said there were changes, not there were few changes. Frequent changes in climate before the Cretaceous period made dinosaurs better able? No, it just says that they were able to survive. It doesn't say that it improved the dinosaurs, right? Changes in climate before the Cretaceous period caused severe fluctuation in sea level, resulting in the extinct... No, the dinosaurs did not become extinct, so this one's way too strong. All right, so again, through process of elimination, it must be A. Okay, let's go ahead and confirm it. Climate changes associated with the movement of seaways before the Cretaceous period did not cause the dinosaurs to become extinct. Remember that I said no effect. Okay, so that's that one right there. Okay, so again, let's just move on. Let's just keep this show going. All right, we already did number 6. That was one of our vocab questions. So let's come down. Number 7. Number 7 is what's called a sentence rephrasing question. And what that means is they give you a sentence from the passage, and you just have to rephrase it and simplify it a little bit. Now, the rule here is, the first rule is, obviously they're going to be changing some vocabulary, changing vocab, but the idea is not going to change. And number 2, you need to try to capture all of the ideas. So let me give you an example. Like if I said, I love pizza because it's cheap. How many ideas did I say? I said 2 ideas, right? And if one of these answers only said, I love pizza, well, that's only half correct. That's incomplete, right? So you have to try to get both of these or 3 of these ideas. So the strategy here is you just go to the passage, and we're going to paragraph 4. You read the sentence, and what I like to do is I like to break it into parts. So idea 1, idea 2, idea 3, and then I like to determine the relationship between those parts. Is it cause and effect? Is it reasons? Is it kind of opposite effect? That kind of thing. So let's go up to paragraph 4 and take a look. All right, where are you? Paragraph 4. All right, here we go. Idea number 1. Many plants and animals disappear abruptly. Okay? So they disappear fast from the fossil record as one moves from layers of rock documenting the end of the Cretaceous up into rocks. So as you go up, the dinosaurs the plants and animals disappear quickly. Okay. And let's see, as one moves up from layers documenting the end of the Cretaceous. So here we have the Cretaceous up into rocks representing the beginning of the Cenozoic. And we have the Mesozoic in the middle. It's not important that you know these words. You just have to know the order of them. So it goes from the Cretaceous to the Mesozoic to the Cenozoic, and the plants and animals disappear, and they disappear quickly. Okay, so those are the ideas. Come down. All right, starting at the bottom. Plants and animals from the Mesozoic era were unable... No. That has nothing to do about disappearing or anything like that. Fossils from the Cretaceous period of the Mesozoic up to the beginning of the Cenozoic era have been removed. Have been removed? No, that doesn't mean disappear quickly. Few fossils of the Mesozoic era have survived in the rocks that mark the end of the Cretaceous. So this seems to have the order backwards. So it's not saying that Cretaceous is on the bottom. It's saying that Cretaceous is above the Mesozoic era, which doesn't make sense. All right. And then finally, the fossil records suggest that there was an abrupt, which means sudden, extinction of many plants and animals at the end of the Mesozoic era. It looks like just through process of elimination, it has to be A. Let's go ahead and confirm that and go back. All right, many abruptly as one moves, document up the represented. Yeah. So they say they disappear as you move all the way to the beginning of the Cenozoic, which is the era after the Mesozoic. Yeah, so it looks like that's the correct answer. Okay. Number 8. In paragraph 4, all of the questions are answered except. So this is what's called a negative factual. And the way it works is 3 of these answers are true. So true, 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 and one of them is false, and you have to choose the false one. All right, so let's go to paragraph 4 and just kind of see what information they give us, okay? All right, paragraph 4. So, again, these tend to go in order. So from strategy, I'm going to start reading right here, okay? Between the last layer of Cretaceous rock and the first layer of Cenozoic rock, there is often a thin layer of clay. So they said they have clay. That's information 1. Scientists felt that they could get an idea of how long the extinctions took by determining how long it took to deposit this 1 centimeter of clay. So scientists are looking at the clay. So they're looking at the clay. And they thought they could determine the time it took to deposit the clay by determining the amount of the element. So finally, they're using this element, IR, as evidence for time. So what information do they give me? They tell me that there's clay in the middle. They tell me that scientists are interested in this clay. And specifically, the scientists are using this element to determine the time. Okay, so let's go ahead and start crossing out answers. If I know the answer to the question, then I cross it out. All right, here we go. Why did scientists want more information about the dinosaur extinctions at the end of the Cretaceous? Well, we know this from a previous paragraph, which is kind of cheating a little bit. We know that they were unhappy with the former hypothesis, right? So even though we didn't just say that, let's go ahead and skip this one. Okay, skip. Even though I do think it's true. What was the effect of the surprising observation scientists made? Okay, so this was an effect of their observation. Okay. Why were scientists interested in determining how long it took to deposit the layer? Well, we know that because they were finding out about the dinosaur extinctions, right? We know that's true. Why is there a layer of clay? Well, they tell me that they have clay, remember? Do they tell me why? We can go back and check. So let's go back and do a quick check. So we're looking for the effect of the surprising observation. We're also trying to see why did they want more information. I'm pretty sure that's true, but let's just make sure. Okay, go back to paragraph 4. Okay, so come back here. Dissatisfaction, yeah, they're unhappy. Okay. Led to a surprising observation that in turn has suggested a new hypothesis. So we know that this is the effect of the observation, and we know why. It's because they were unhappy. So my strategy of looking here didn't work that well, which is okay. It just means you have to be flexible on a test. Be flexible on a test. Usually on the TOEFL things go in order, but they did have me jump up here for a couple of answers. But one thing I know for a fact that they didn't answer is they didn't answer why the clay hasn't moved. Okay. All right, where am I? Right here. Okay. So why? We knew they were unhappy, and we know the effect was they suggested a new hypothesis. So again, the answer has to be A, right there. All right, we're getting close to being done here. Paragraph 5 implies that a special explanation of the IR in the boundary clay is needed because. So rephrase the question here. Why do we need a special explanation of the IR in the boundary clay? Why do we need that? Why must we have it? And go to paragraph 5. Okay. IR has not been common at Earth's surface since the very beginning of the planet's history. Because it usually exists in a metallic state, it was preferentially incorporated in Earth's core as the planet cooled and consolidated. IR is found in high concentrations in some meteorites, in which the solar system's original chemical composition is preserved. Even today, microscopic meteorites continually bombard Earth, falling on both land and sea. So basically, they found this IR in the clay, but they said that it's not common in the clay. So we almost need a special explanation to explain it, right? Keep reading. How long these calculations suggest that a period of about would have been. However, other reliable evidence suggests that the deposition of the boundary clay could not have taken 1 million years. So the unusually high concentration of IR seems to require a special explanation right there. So why does it require a special explanation? Because it says here it could not have taken 1 year to put inside right there. So something about the time, right? Okay, oops, number 10. The amount of IR in the boundary clay is too great to come... Did they say too great? Let's see. The IR in the boundary clay was deposited much more. The concentration in the boundary clay is higher than the amount of IR in the boundary clay is too great to have come from microscopic meteorites during the time. So this one mentions time right here. This one mentions time. Let's see. Okay, let's go back just to make sure. We don't want to make a mistake. Okay. Right here. By measuring fall, scientists can ask how long it might take to deposit. These calculations as a moment required. However, it suggests that it could not have taken 1 million years. So it has an unusually high concentration. So there's a lot of IR. That's another thing that we have to kind of keep in mind. There's a lot of it and something to do with the time. Yeah, so it looks like D. See where it says too great? That matches with the unusually high concentration. Again, it's just a vocab game, guys. That's all it is. Just a stupid vocab game. So is higher... No, so they didn't compare it to the microscopic meteorites. Was deposited much more. So they didn't say more than 1 million years ago. They said it took 1 million years or could not have taken 1 million years. Would have been incorporated into the Earth's core. No. Yeah, so it's D. It's D. Okay, paragraph 6 mentions all of the following effects of the hypothesized asteroid collision except. So this is another one of these negative factual questions. So you got true, 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 and false. If it's true, cross it out. And once you cross out 3, you have the right answer. So the question is, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the effects right here of the hypothesized asteroid collision. So what actually happened when the asteroid hit the Earth? This hypothesis. Paragraph 6. In view of these facts, scientists hypothesized that a single large asteroid, okay, that's not an effect. Okay, the resulting fallout created the boundary clay. Okay, so number 1, the effect is it created the clay. Their calculations show that the impact kicked up a dust cloud. So it kicked up dust, and the dust cut off the sun. Cut off sun. Inhibiting photosynthesis in plants. Okay, that means the plants couldn't grow. Decreased surface temperatures, so the temperature went down. Okay, on continents to below freezing. Caused extreme episodes of acid rain. So we also had acid rain. And significantly raised long-term global temperatures. Okay, so the long-term global temperature went up. Well, that's interesting. Short-term, the temperature went down, and long-term, the temperature went up. Okay, that's probably enough. And then the final effect is the dinosaurs died because of this. Okay, come down, come down. Okay, did it have a large dust cloud that kicked up sunlight? Yes, it did. An immediate drop in the surface temperature. Yeah, remember, short term, the temperature went down, right? An extreme decrease in rainfall. Well, all it said was acid rain. It didn't say decrease rain. A long-term increase. Yeah, it said that. They said the temperature long-term went up. So the correct answer is going to be C. Okay, two more. So this one here is what's called a sentence addition, when basically you just add a new sentence into the passage. What I like to do on these ones is look for a word or phrase that tells me location. And if you read this sentence, consequently, this has to go after something. And specifically, it has to come after mentioning this idea of IR and IR in the boundary clay, right? So it mentions IR here, but it doesn't mention about it being in the clay, right? And it also says that they can't accept the idea. So whatever comes after this has to be kind of like something you would say after I say I cannot accept your idea. So let's imagine, like, what if I'm attacking your idea and I say I cannot accept it? What would be the next thing I would say? Well, the next thing I would say is probably like, let's try something else. Let's try something else. Okay? So notice all of these words and all of these phrases kind of give me an idea of location. And then finally, cannot be accepted means before must be some kind of problem, right? For example, if someone gets murdered and you say it was the chef with the candlestick in the kitchen, and then I say to you, well, the chef was at my house. He has an alibi. So see how I'm saying a problem with your explanation? And then I'll say, oh, we cannot accept your explanation. We need a new idea, that kind of thing. All right, so let's go ahead and look at A. Remember, before has to be a problem. By measuring how many of these meteorites fall to Earth, no, that's not a problem. That's just telling how they can do it, the method. These calculations suggest that a period of about 1 million years, that's also not a problem. However, here we go. This looks like the problem. However, other reliable evidence suggests that the deposition could not have taken 1 million years. So it looks like it's going to be C. And then finally, what do you say? You say we need a new idea, and that's what they say. It requires a special explanation. So the correct answer is going to be C. All right, guys, last one, and then we can conclude this video. There's a secret to this question. So what you have to do is you have to choose 3 of these. And the 3 of these have to be, here's the secret, okay? Number 1, they have to be correct. So if it says something wrong, then you can't choose it. Number 2, they have to be kind of big ideas. If they're too specific, it doesn't work. And then finally, number 3, they have to be kind of like main ideas of paragraphs, of distinct paragraphs. Okay? So if you actually go through these paragraphs and try to find the main topic, you're almost done. So let's see, this one talks about, they argue about this. They talks about the old idea, right? This one talks about, let's see, they said the weather became more extreme. And then they give this possible reason that dinosaurs maybe died because they couldn't handle the weather. They then kind of attack this idea. All right. Then they came up with the new idea, something about the clay and the IR. Let's see, it is found. And then they kind of explain the IR more. And then finally, they give the idea about the asteroid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate things that are wrong or too specific. And I should be left with the 3 correct answers. Okay? All right. So notice this one, boundary clay layers like the one between the Mesozoic and Cenozoic. See how specific they're being, are used by scientists to determine the rate at which... So they're not even talking about dinosaurs here. And if you come up to this sentence, it says dinosaurs. So, F is just off topic. Okay, it's not even talking about dinosaurs. Some scientists hypothesize that the extinction of the dinosaurs resulted from the effects of an... That's obviously a big idea right there. So let's check mark that one. The abruptness of extinctions at the end of the Cretaceous and the high concentration of IR found in clay deposited at that time have fueled the development of a new hypothesis. Now, you know why I know this is correct? Not only do they have the new hypothesis, but notice they're giving 2 reasons. Number 1 and number 2, which indicates it's a big it's a big idea right there. The retreat of the seaways at the end has not been... No, that has nothing to do with the dinosaurs. It doesn't help me. A simple climate change does not explain some important data. So this is when they're attacking the first idea, which is a big idea, right? They said, hey, the first idea is wrong, so let's skip this one. Extreme changes in daily and seasonal climates preceded the retreat of the seas. Again, it's not even about dinosaurs. Not even about dinosaurs. So the correct answer has to be B, D, and E. And the good news here is it doesn't have to be in any correct order. You know, you can say, you know, E, B, D if you want to. And if you get all three of these correct, you get 2 points. And if you get two of these correct, you get 1 point. So maximum, you're looking at a 15 points on one passage. So on the TOEFL, you're going to have 3 passages that count. So 15 times 3, of course, is 45. And if you can get around like 40 out of 45, you're looking at a pretty high TOEFL score. So, you know, you can make about 2 mistakes per passage and still get a very high TOEFL score. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I'll try to make more TOEFL videos for you guys. It's a fun test. Not as fun as the GRE, but definitely fun. And this is, of course, where I started, so it's always good to go back to your roots. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, and I will talk to you guys later.